As the world, particularly Western culture, descends more and more into hyperpolarization, for me it's easy to view everything through a manipulated lens. Events not randomly organically unfolding, but more forcibly executed through a prism of methodically controlled steps. All emotionally charged high-impact events, as we are viscerally experiencing at present, are the result of a curation and a manipulation to primarily keep everyone divided, but with the dual purpose of nudging society and the collective to a more controlled, techno-feudalist, transhumanist, mind-control-based society. You can of course view human-based manipulation on the physical 3D plane relatively easily, but increasingly my realization, and perhaps resolve, solidifies to the idea that there is an unseen force manipulating humanity on many different dimensional levels. There have been various remote viewing teams who over the years have described key people on the global stage and the external influence on their thinking and actions within the mainstream sphere. Both Future Forecasting and Farsight have reported similar outcomes on subjects like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and even the late Pope Francis. All have noted the influence on their thinking from both positive and negative beings, entities, energies, and even strangely AI. To that point, as humanity's descent into the realms of AI becomes deeper and more complicated, how much of AI has already been a large influencing aspect on our reality? Is there an ancient form of AI or consciousness that is pushing our organic bodies into a more synthetic way of being and living, pushing humanity towards technocracy? Where I am now with my thinking and understanding concerning how our exterior and interior reality is ordered would very likely be grounds for immediate sectioning of the mental health authorities 20 or 30 years ago. Luckily, for me and you, times have changed, so hopefully that doesn't happen. I do hold a sense of isolation as a result of my unusual views. I feel so far divorced from the current orthodoxies. Similar to you, the reader, I consume a daily variety of other researchers, experiences, and intuitive information. This in a way is my community, but unfortunately it is a very one-way relationship. My immediate community, people around me, I can never discuss topics at this deep, weird level. The idea of non-human manipulation has become more than just a flighty, whimsical idea. It has found real grounding in my life due to recent personal experiences over these last few years, particularly this year, with what I thought was my second twin flame experience, and additionally otherworldly heightening of my psychic and energetic abilities, literally making me feel like Neo from the Matrix, due to my supernatural ability to manipulate energy and reality around me. As it turns out through the work of Eve Lorgan and her 2 books, Alien Lovebite and The Dark Side of Cupid, I've now realised how much of these experiences, which were at the time astoundingly beautiful and at times deeply terrifying and painful, were actually a very sophisticated form of spiritual warfare. I was essentially puppeted and manipulated in ways it's hard to methodically lay down and describe. If you are unaware of the twin flame narrative, this is the new age idea that your soul may have a masculine or feminine counterpart. If you were ever lucky enough to meet in this lifetime, this counterpart would be your perfectly divinely orchestrated romantic partner. The union would ripple out into the collective as a powerful energetic nodal point. I do think there is something to this concept, but I now feel potentially the process is heavily manipulated by forces beyond our senses. I'm unsure whether genuine unions would ever be allowed on Earth due to its powerful positive influence, but I could be wrong on this. The Dark Side of Cupid book especially resonated with me. Many of the documented case studies came directly from Lorgan's clients, who she assisted via extensive counselling, hypnotherapy, and trauma release practitioner work. Before reading this book, I felt very alone in my experiences, but now I realise these experiences are well documented and have occurred all over the world and to many different individuals. The sophistication of the illusions and the complicated theatre I experienced, I was left thinking, why me? Lorgan's research details that many of the targeted individuals involved are connected to the alternative media, paranormal research, or work as active psychics, healers, nurses, social workers, and other care-orientated vocations. Typically, the affected people are involved in left-field areas of spirituality, thinking, and affirmative actions in a bid to effect real paradigm-busting conscious change. this activity seems to make them a direct target. In Logan's first book, Alien Lovebite, it really frames the phenomena through an extraterrestrial lens of abduction and implants, the puppet masters usually being little grey aliens, insectoids or reptilians. There is a larger conversation which needs to be addressed in terms of definitions of these characters or beings, and maybe the shape-shifting ability of these forces to hold different visual forms at will. Are we purely talking extraterrestrial, interdimensional, cryptid, or even an ancient form of AI? Or is this phenomenon something we literally can't describe or even wrap our heads around? My own personal experiences maybe did stem from extraterrestrial or interdimensional origins, but if I were to try and define the feeling of what happened, it did feel more etheric, energetic, and spiritual in nature, maybe even demonic, if I were to use Christian defined terms. But at times, there was an artificial feeling to it. The first twin flame experience occurred 2 years into creating content for Reconsider News. This endeavour was more directed towards geopolitical conspiracy thinking. The first twin flame experience totally derailed my activities. I guess one positive is that I did become more spiritual. Fast forward a few years, I've now altered my output by devising more of a personal based platform, Reconsider Simon, which is still broad in its worldview, but maybe has more of a spiritual focus that's heavily influenced by earth energies, megalithic architecture, and other areas of high strangeness. The recent second twin flame experience and connected health issues were again an attempt to maybe derail me and slow me down. Thankfully, I feel I've come out of this entire episode with a more solidified understanding on the negative influence on my activities and thinking. Because of the very rapid and dizzying sudden psychic abilities, the experiences resultantly made me more wary of other people's abilities. I'm now even more questioning on the source of other people's psychic powers. How sure can they be that these aren't heightened by entities with a negative agenda? There is a very uncomfortable idea considering the mass puppeting of heart-centered spiritually focused people and their spiritual abilities, with a view to create a mass false understanding of reality and send the collective in an incorrect direction through seeding of misinformation, sending everyone into a maze of spiritual illusions. Admittedly, this is a very uncomfortable concept and a very black-pilled view of the landscape, but I think it's important to consider. But why manipulate me in such an elaborate way? I don't have any sort of real global following. I'm on the outside edge of the fringe as you can possibly get, unless the emotional chaos provides a certain amount of localized energetic food from the drama and emotional pain. This could definitely play a part. The experience really now makes me doubt the entire global cultural space of politics and culture. In fact, everything that is influencing a shift on the collective now has an even bigger question mark next to it, for me personally. Already this last year, I've had to contend with considering a large section of society as not having any type of awareness at all. These people purely following the ebbs and flows of society, unwaveringly and unquestionably, and mechanically their action predefined by an external force. Many will be familiar with this concept as non-playable characters, or as the hypnotist and researcher Dolores Cannon called them, background people. To make matters even more confusing and conspiratorial, there is the added concept of clone people from covert and non-human forces, strategically placed to control society. Or even could there beings walking amongst us, projecting out a visual and energetic appearance of being human, but if you peel away this false visual insert, it reveals a being that has no humanity at all. Similar to the cult classic film, They Live, where their main character finds a pair of sunglasses, enabling him to see controlling entities that are pretending to be people within human society. So how much of the human experience then is basically a proxy existence with negative unseen forces trying to influence people and their group behaviour for outcomes which work completely against their own interests, psychically, spiritually, and karmically? Now more than ever, the global news media pumps story after story of divisional narratives, creating a heightened constant state of fear and anger towards each other. It's always easy to comprehend the human component, but are there potentially forces behind the unseen veil which make up a lot larger piece of the cosmic human drama? So then, we start to realise that researchers like David Icke were more correct than we realise concerning ideas of overarching archontic forces manipulating events. From my own very fragmented knowledge and experience, it does feel like we are really dealing with an incredibly sophisticated, cunning, and unscrupulous trickster energy. We really should view the human mind or consciousness as a type of receiver, which alas is heavily influenced by thoughts, ideas that much of the time aren't actually ours, particularly the negative and detrimental ones. We are talking entities that know your habits, your fears, your hopes and dreams. They can seed feelings, thoughts and ideas. No matter how spiritual or energetically savvy people think they are, everyone is susceptible to this force. Anyone can be a target, whether this is individualized, a collective, or on a countrywide scale. This trickster force and its ability to shapeshift is masterful, altering its visuals and energetics at will to suit its agenda. If we then relate back to the earlier premise of definitions of beings and entities and energies, how do you define something with the fluidity to shift from one form to another? On the weirder side of the spiritual community, we have solidified ideas of a huge range of differing extraterrestrial, interdimensional or spiritual beings. How do we really know it's not one force, creating a variety of energetic and entity illusions? I'm not saying this is definitely the summation of things, but again, we need to consider this as an uncomfortable possibility. But are there even deeper levels to this human tinkering, on the genetic level? As people are born into this realm, this sandbox reality, if you're a believer in the soul and the reincarnation process, is it possible entities or beings are deliberately creating relationships in order to influence the birth of a particular child with specific genetics or DNA? This level of planning and execution could be a benefit or detriment to humanity, depending on the agenda of the beings or energies who are involved in the process. This then takes the idea of spiritual warfare to a whole other level, and could be a large reason why there is so much manipulation on the romantic level, but also across family lineages. The implications of this type of scenario is massive. Trickster manipulators influencing the birth of particular souls into lineages, again with a view to nudge aspects of society in certain directions. So entire family structures, communities, towns, cities, continents, and even races are the result of genetic manipulation. So is there the possibility that manipulation and hybridization has been carried out in my own family tree? This is something I intend to dig deeper into under hypnosis. I do suspect something strange has been going on. I feel we're in a time of great revealing truths. There are going to be many things that we'll have to contend with that will blow our human minds in how this reality is really constructed. Not all of it bad. I feel it's unwise for people to pretend certain dark truths aren't a possibility, to stick your head in the spiritual sand and hope it goes away. If we grow to understand this trickster manipulating energy spiritually, we can maybe move beyond its influence, bringing us collectively to a more powerful position. Although everything could feel overwhelming, chaotic and negative, it could be all part of the spiritual growth in truly stepping into our power as cosmic divine manifestors. This is my hope anyway, in trying to end on a positive note.